$162,579 of revenue in my print-on-demand Etsy shop in the last 60 days, which came to right around 2,300 orders in the last 60 days. Now, if you're watching this video when I'm publishing it, it's January. So the last 60 days are the biggest time in e-commerce that there is, November and December, when everyone's doing their holiday shopping. But in this video, I am going to let you know what my profit was like for the entire year. Hi there, guys. My name is Shawna, and I used to be a 4th grade school teacher, but now I am a 6-figure Etsy seller. I have completed my 4th year on Etsy selling my print-on-demand items. And I've been out of the classroom now for about 2.5 of those years. And I don't plan on ever going back to my day job. So if you want to hear more about this journey and what you can make, stay tuned. You're watching the channel No Friend Left Behind, which is a channel where my friends, because of course I'm super excited about this Etsy thing, got to quit my job. I make way more money than I did as a school teacher. I think it's an amazing business opportunity for people that don't have any prior knowledge about business, such as myself. I had no prior knowledge about business, no prior knowledge about design or designing shirts or apparel or selling things. I had no knowledge of any of this. And yet within a year and a half, my shop was scaling and was making so much that it was way outmaking my day job as a teacher. And so of course, I wanted all my friends to get in on this. Because what's really, really cool about this is that it is absolutely repeatable. You could do exactly what I did. You could take the same steps I did, and you can make this happen for yourself. And you might be thinking, well, then why doesn't everyone do that? Well, because it takes a sustained amount of time to do this and to build it to the place where you're actually making great money. And when you open your own business, this is something that so many people that have never opened a business before don't understand or don't expect, I guess. When you get a job, they give you a paycheck. Here, you work 2 weeks, here's a paycheck. It's a sure thing. But that paycheck remains pretty steady. It doesn't go up a whole lot over time. With a business, when you open your own business, you put a lot of time in for many weeks and possibly many months before really making money doing that business. But once you start making money doing that business, it's possible to scale the business so that you're making way more than you would at maybe a regular day job. All right, so the focus of this video is going to be what my journey has looked like so far, and this is going to be the first video in a series of videos. My revenue this year was $505,098.60. I'll tell you in a second what my profit was and how it compares to the last couple of years since the beginning of my journey and what I'm expecting to be able to do this year. But before we jump in real fast, I will say if this is the first video you've ever come across about print on demand and Etsy, real quick for you, it's awesome. You open an Etsy shop, it costs $15, it costs 20 cents each time you list an item. You get a design app like Kittl or GoDaddy Studios or Canva, and you watch a couple of YouTube tutorials and you start designing your t-shirts or your tote bags or your mugs, whatever it is you want to design. And you're going to fulfill those products through Printify or Printful or another print provider. The print provider is going to be plugged into your Etsy shop, and they're going to be able to send that order out for you. You never have to touch the product. You don't have to ship the product. All you have to do is design your products and put them in your shop. And you don't even have to order your product to take pictures, because we can purchase mock-up photos, so blank t-shirts or blank totes right off of Etsy for a couple of bucks. We can use that same mock-up over and over again, and we can superimpose our design right on top of that mock-up and list it for sale in our shops. I'll leave a couple of videos linked down below if you want to know more about that. But in this video, we're going to get into the numbers that are possible if you decide to go on this journey like I did. All right, so like I said, my revenue for the year 2024 was $505,098.60. This came to about 8,502 orders. And you can see from the graph here that a majority of those orders were July through December. Now, this would be right around $125,000 profit for me, as I usually get to keep right around 25% of that revenue as my profit. And well, being a teacher that used to make $51,000 a year, Making $125,000 for the year is pretty exciting. However, when you compare it to the year before, which was 2023, I actually pulled in revenue in 2023, $767,224.66, and I had 12,600 orders the year of 2023. So you might be wondering why the drop, because this is my third year of stats that we're looking at here. We would think that my fourth year would be better, because usually with Etsy, as you keep going, as you get a sales velocity, you're able to maintain that sales velocity. You're able to make more sales year after year. I am going to come back to that in just a moment, because I know exactly why I had a drop in sales. You might be wondering right now, was it the economy this year? Was it because it was an election year? You know, what outside forces were going on that could have caused this? But it actually wasn't an outside force. I do wholeheartedly believe that my shop would have grown had I not made this one disastrous mistake in my shop. And I'll loop back and tell you what that was in just a second. Now, if you're in the beginning of your journey, or maybe you haven't started your journey yet, let me make sure that you leave inspired, because if you're not inspired just yet, I think you will be in just a moment. Let's go back to my very first year on Etsy. I opened my shop kind of late in the year. I did wind up with $1,046 revenue. Honestly, about half of that revenue was my mom coming in and buying shirts from my shop. So out of those 26 orders we see there, probably maybe 10 to 13 of them were organic. Moving into my first calendar year on Etsy, I was able to pull in $107,000 in revenue, which wound up being right around $30,000 in profit. And you could see that most of that was made in the later part of the year. Most of that was made in August, and then again in November and December. So if you're toward the beginning of your journey, please know that the first couple of months of my journey, like the first 7 or 8 months of my journey, I was making pennies per hour. It wasn't until I was about 9 months in that I actually started to gain a sales velocity. And I did that through a couple of things. I was doubling down on what was working. I was very consistently feeding the Etsy algorithm in particular niches. And all of this was and I was getting better at market research. So these things combined to help me start gaining daily sales, and then multiple daily sales. And then the following year, my second full year on Etsy, I wound up with a revenue of $422,000. And this, I just really hope this is exciting for you to see the huge growth from one year to the next. Like, I'm giving myself enormous raises from one year to the next. So those first 8 or 9 months with me struggling, and literally when I would do what I'd work it out, it was literally pennies per hour. I was literally making, like, I remember like month 4, month 5, I would divide up my profit by how many hours I had worked, and it was like two pennies an hour. Like, it was ridiculous. But I understood, I'd listened to enough content to understand how this works, and so I just kept plugging along. Which just brings us to that year where in 2023, where I did $767,000, and then this past year where I did $505,000. Now, I don't think I mentioned the profit for each of these years, so let me go back and just mention that real fast. For the $1,046, I didn't make probably hardly any profit because I had some pricing issues that were mixed up, and I just wasn't very good at this whole thing yet, so I really didn't get to keep much profit there. The following year, $107,000 revenue. I think I shared that with you. I made $30,000 profit. The year that I made $422,000 revenue was a huge bump from that $30,000 profit. Now this year was $107,000 profit, more than doubling my teacher salary just my second year on Etsy, which is kind of magical, amazing. Who thinks that they can change their life that much in 2 years with consistent, dedicated work and opening their new business? And then the following year with the $767,000 revenue, I got to keep right around $162,000 profit. Again, a huge raise I gave myself. I literally gave myself my entire teacher salary as a raise over again that third calendar year on Etsy. And then this past year at $505,000 revenue was more like $125,000 profit. So I took a bit of a pay cut. So the purpose in making this video is to inspire you, because if you didn't know this was possible, then now you do. And knowing that is so exciting if you are looking for an idea, for a business to start, or if you've already started this and you're feeling like, oh man, is this worth it? Oh my God, yes, I'm here to tell you it's so worth it. I know it's hard in those months where you're making just pennies. The other purpose in making this video is to kickstart a 12-part series. I'm going to take you with me this year, and I'm going to give you a month-by-month growth update. And I'm doing that for two reasons. One, I think it's really exciting to see what these shops can do over time. Two, I need to be accountable. So I want you to head down into the comments right now if you're excited about these kinds of numbers and you're looking forward to creating an Etsy shop that brings you a lot of extra disposable income, that extra income that makes life easy, that's that part of the income that's above and beyond what you have to pay out in bills, is the part of the income that you get to have fun with. If you're looking forward to creating that for yourself, go down into the comments and say, show me the money. And if you want us to be accountable to each other throughout the year, you can also include what you are going to accomplish this month. And you want to make sure that you're celebrating that with me next month when I give you my update. Now, I did start this video out by sharing with you that I had made right around $162,000 revenue in my Etsy shop over the last 60 days, being November and December. You might be wondering what the profit was on that, and it was right around $40,000. If only Shawna from a couple years ago would have known that this future Shawna would be making $40,000 in a 2-month period, that Shawna would be doing backflips. And I'm doing backflips. I feel very blessed. I feel very lucky, which is one of the reasons I'm sharing it on YouTube, because I feel eternally indebted to the people that made the videos that I first came across. But as you know, I did have a pretty big decline from one year to the next, being, from 2023 to 2024, I made nearly $40,000 less for the year. So why was that? And the answer is incredibly simple. I did not list as much. I listed a lot less. There were weeks I listed nothing. And if you're going to want the kinds of numbers I have been able to muster up for myself, I will tell you now that you're going to have a very committed relationship with Etsy. You're going to have to spend a lot of time getting good at this, and you're going to have to spend a lot of time making listings. I am going to break it down for you year after year, some information on how many listings I've had in my shop so that you know what the target could be if you're looking to do the numbers that I'm doing. And of course, well, you don't want just any old listings, you want quality listings, and you're going to learn how to do that by watching content about market research. I make a lot of content about that over on my other channel, Simply Shawna. I'll leave it linked down below if you want to head over there and maybe take a look at that playlist. And so there are no outside forces to blame. It is all squarely on my shoulders. I did not list as much, and so my shop started to decline, especially the first couple months of the year. You see, this year I started a membership. If you're interested in that, I will leave it linked down below. But I started a membership, and as I ramped up it, I made it live in this past July. And as I made that live, all of my time, the months leading up to that, were really in preparation for that. I was planning that out. I was making special content for that and planning out the structure of that. And because of that, I really was not listing as seriously in my Etsy shop. Again, sometimes I went whole weeks without listing, which I'd never done that prior. That's not a good way to grow your Etsy shop. You really want to go into it knowing, hey, I'm going to hit a certain amount of listings every week with the intention of getting better at this whole listing thing as I go, at the designs that I'm creating. So my action steps for this year are, one, to make these videos. So now I'm accountable to you. I'm airing all of it out. I can't hide from this. I'm making it public what I'm doing. And so I got to keep up with that because I don't want to fail in front of you. 2, I'm going to have to list in order not to have to come out in a video and say, oh, I'm really not making this thing work this year. So I'm going to have to list things in my Etsy shop very regularly. I've already hit the ground running. It's exactly January 3rd right now, and I've already got a batch of 10 designs listed in my shop. If you want to know more about how I batch designs, I'll leave a link to that video down below in the description as well. And so really my action steps are pretty simple. I'm going to double down on the things that I already have sold, and I'm going to create listings regularly every single week. My goal is to have 40 listings in my shop, new listings in my shop every single week. I like to accomplish that by A/B testing. This year I'm going to be running an A/B test with shipping versus separate shipping, charging for shipping versus offering the shipping included. I want to see how that pans out. So that means it's 20 designs, 40 listings. Since our next video is going to be about how this January goes and whether or not I hit my marker of my input goal, being my input goal is the action I'm putting in, the amount of listings that I'm going to put out every single week. And let's see what that output is. Let's find out what the revenue is going to be on that. And I'm going to be comparing that to last year and the year before that, because I'm trying to get back to 2023's numbers. I want to beat 2024's numbers. So just a quick look here for the month of January. Again, this would have been like my 4th month on Etsy. My profit from that would have been right around $100, and I would have been right around 600 listings at that point, okay? I was listing like a fiend when I first got started. Like I said, I was really, really committed. My second year on Etsy, January 1st through 31st, I would have been on Etsy at this point for a little over a year, right? So January, maybe I was on Etsy for maybe 14 or 15 months at that point. I wound up with a revenue of $9,272. And from that, my profit was right under $2,000. It would have been right around $1,900. I was keeping pretty good records of that at the time. So it was actually $1,972. And then I would have been right around 2,700 listings. When I first opened up my shop, my very first goal was, okay, I want 2,000 listings by the 1 year mark. And I did achieve that. Probably the first 600 of them were pretty bad, but the next 400 of them were getting like really much better. And those were the ones that really sold most of them, that really gave me most of my profits, that really got my shop scaling. So the 3rd year on Etsy, my 3rd January on Etsy, I made $32,683 in revenue, which would have been right around $7,000, probably just a little under $7,000 in profit. I am guesstimating a little bit, but I think I was right around 5,500 listings at that time. They weren't all live. I started to take listings out that weren't selling at that time just because I wanted to clean my shop up. It was hard to like find things and whatever. But that's how much practice I had put into this. I'd made 5,500 listings. My 4th year, so last year, the year where I started, to decline a little bit because I wasn't listing as much, I had a revenue of $27,330, and my profit would have been right around $6,000, and I would have been at right around 6,500 listings. So my listing velocity had slowed down, and it slows down a whole lot more as we go through the year last year. So I'm going to go for the goal this year of $200,000 profit in my Etsy shop. Let's see how close I can get. I'm going to have to leave you hanging here. I can't tell you how the following January goes until next month. If you don't want to miss that, go down and hit the like button on this video and make sure to give that little subscribe button a little squeeze so that you don't miss that future video. And I'll see you there. Bye, guys.